everyone! Welcome back to another deep dive, literally this time, into the world of submarines. Submarines are some of the most complex and fascinating machines ever invented, designed to operate in one of the most hostile environments known to humans, the deep ocean. These underwater marvels are packed with amazing technology, some of which seems almost sci-fi in nature. Today, we're going to explore how submarines work, how they create air, stay pressurized, navigate the deep, and even how sailors manage to live inside them for months at a time. Ready to submerge? Let's go! One of the first questions that comes to mind when we think about submarines is, how do they breathe? I mean, they're sealed underwater for months at a time, so where does the air come from? Well, submarines have an incredible system to manage air production. They don't just carry a few tanks of air on board and hope for the best. No, submarines actually make their own oxygen. Here's how. Submarines use electrolysis, a process that splits water, H2O, into hydrogen and oxygen. They take seawater, run it through an electrolyzer, and out comes breathable oxygen. This oxygen is then circulated through the submarine to maintain an atmosphere where the crew can breathe comfortably. And what about carbon dioxide? Because we're constantly exhaling CO2, the air inside the submarine would quickly become toxic. So submarines use CO2 scrubbers, which are systems that remove carbon dioxide from the air. They chemically bind the CO2 to absorbent materials and prevent it from building up. In case you're wondering, submariners don't just breathe pure oxygen. Submarines try to replicate the same 21% oxygen ratio we experience on land. Fun fact, even though they're underwater, submarines often have better air quality than some office buildings, just with a lot less sunlight. One of the trickiest things about being underwater is the pressure. Water is heavy, like really heavy. For every 10 meters you descend into the ocean, the pressure increases by about 1 atmosphere. That's the equivalent of having an extra 15 pounds of pressure pushing down on every square inch of your body for each additional 10 meters you go down. Submarines are built with this in mind. Their hulls are designed to withstand the immense pressure of the ocean. There are actually 2 hulls in most submarines: the inner hull, where the crew lives, and the outer hull, which takes the brunt of the pressure. But how do submarines handle the pressure changes as they dive deeper or come back up? Well, they don't. Inside, submarines remain at normal atmospheric pressure, the same as sea level. This way, the crew doesn't have to worry about decompression sickness or the bends, because they aren't exposed to the high external pressure of the ocean. The pressurization inside the submarine stays steady no matter how deep they go, thanks to that sturdy hull. When you're deep underwater, GPS and traditional navigation methods become a challenge. There's no Google Maps down there, so how do submarines figure out where they are and where they're going? Submarines rely on a combination of inertial navigation systems, INS, and sonar. The INS uses gyroscopes and accelerometers to track the submarine's movement without needing external signals. Basically, it keeps track of how far and in which direction the submarine has traveled. This system is constantly recalibrated to avoid drift in accuracy, but it's pretty good at keeping the sub on course. Then there's sonar, which stands for sound navigation and ranging. Sonar helps submarines see underwater. Since light doesn't travel well through water, submarines use sound waves. There are 2 types of sonar: active and passive. Active sonar works by sending out sound pulses and measuring how long it takes for those pulses to bounce back from objects like the ocean floor or other vessels. Passive sonar, on the other hand, is more like listening in. Submarines use it to detect sounds in their environment, like the noise from other ships. Together, these systems allow submarines to navigate the ocean's depths even when they're hundreds of meters below the surface. Being underwater doesn't just mess with GPS, it also makes communication difficult. Radio waves, which we use for most wireless communication, don't travel well through water. So how do submarines communicate with the outside world? For submarines, communication is done through a few different methods, depending on how deep they are. When a sub is close to the surface, it can raise an antenna to send and receive radio signals. But when it's deep underwater, submarines rely on very low frequency, VLF, or extremely low frequency, ELF, signals. These signals can penetrate water, but there's a catch. They don't carry much data. So if you're imagining submariners texting their friends back home, think again. Messages sent this way are usually very short and slow, and if the sub needs to stay stealthy and avoid detection, it might communicate even less. Submarines sometimes go for long periods without sending any signals at all to remain hidden from enemy forces. Now that we've talked about the tech, let's not forget about the humans living inside these metal tubes. Life on a submarine is a unique challenge in itself. Imagine being sealed in a pressurized, enclosed space for months at a time. You don't see the sun, you don't feel fresh air, and your entire world shrinks to a few meters of steel walls. Mental health is a big concern on submarines, and for good reason. Crews are often away from their families for long periods, with limited communication. While they do get emails from loved ones, the information they receive is filtered. This is done to prevent emotional distractions that might affect performance during a mission. The idea is that submariners need to stay focused, and receiving bad news from home while submerged in a high-stress environment isn't ideal. Crews are also kept busy with strict routines, both to maintain discipline and prevent the boredom that can come with being underwater for months. Every aspect of life is structured, from meals to recreation time to the shifts the crew works, usually in 6-hour rotations. Space is extremely limited on a sub, and privacy is practically non-existent. Bunks are small, and some submariners even hot bunk, meaning they share a bed with someone from a different shift to maximize space. As one person wakes up and goes to work, the other takes their place in the same bunk. But despite these hardships, submariners form close bonds with each other, and the shared experience of living in such an extreme environment builds camaraderie. Submarine service isn't for everyone, but for those who take the plunge, it can be an incredibly rewarding experience. One of the defining characteristics of submarines, especially military ones, is their ability to remain stealthy. Submarines are designed to be nearly invisible to radar and sonar detection. They do this by minimizing their noise levels, using special coatings on the hull, and even designing their propellers in a way that reduces the sound they make as they move through the water. Submarines are often called silent hunters, as their stealth capability allows them to approach targets undetected. Some submarines can stay hidden underwater for weeks or even months at a time, all while moving through some of the most challenging environments on Earth. When it comes to power, many modern military submarines are powered by nuclear reactors. Nuclear subs can stay underwater for incredibly long periods, sometimes for months, because they don't need to surface for air or fuel. Unlike diesel-powered subs, which need to come up to recharge their batteries, nuclear submarines have almost limitless endurance. A nuclear reactor generates heat by splitting atoms, usually uranium, which is then used to produce steam that drives turbines to generate electricity. This electricity powers the propulsion system and all the submarine systems, everything from the lighting to the air scrubbers we talked about earlier. Nuclear subs have revolutionized undersea warfare and exploration, offering an unmatched combination of stealth, range, and endurance. Submarines are technological marvels, self-sustaining, highly engineered machines that can explore or patrol some of the most hostile environments on Earth. From generating their own air to navigating without GPS, they represent some of humanity's most ingenious problem-solving. But as much as the technology is impressive, let's not forget about the people who live and work inside these amazing machines. It takes resilience, mental strength, and a tight-knit crew to make it all work. That's it for today, folks. Thanks for taking this underwater journey with me. I hope you've enjoyed learning about the incredible technologies that make submarines possible. Until next time, take care, and see you in the next episode.